our Palantir deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground,
It,
from their impressive financials to their somewhat controversial reputation. But before we wrap things up, I want to kind of dig a little deeper into a few areas that I think we haven't fully explored yet.
yeah, there's always a few more layers to peel back when it comes to a company like Palantir. Very complex, multifaceted, always more to learn.
All right, so let's talk about their revenue streams.
Yeah.
We know they have government and commercial clients. But how do they actually make money, like from their different platforms?
Well, their revenue model is actually quite diverse. Think of it like a three-legged stool, each leg representing a different way they generate income. So the first leg is what they call Palantir Cloud, which is essentially their software as a service offering. Clients subscribe to the software. It's hosted on Palantir's servers, so they're paying like monthly fee for access to these, powerful data analytics tools.
Okay, so that's similar to how a lot of software companies operate these days. Clients get access to the latest features and updates. And Palantir handles all that back-end infrastructure and maintenance. Makes sense. What about the second leg of this revenue stool?
That would be on-premises software, which is a more traditional approach, where clients actually purchase licenses for the software, and then they run it on their own servers and infrastructure. So it gives them more control over their data and systems. But it also means that they're responsible for managing and maintaining everything themselves.
So it's like a trade-off between convenience and control. Some clients, especially those dealing with highly sensitive data, might prefer that on-premises option for, security reasons. What about that third leg? How do they round out their revenue streams?
The third leg is their professional services segment, and this is where they leverage their expertise to provide consulting training and custom development work for their clients. So essentially, they're helping clients implement and optimize their Palantir platforms, making sure they're getting the most value from their investment.
Ah, the good old-fashioned consulting gig. Makes sense. They have a deep understanding of their technology and how it can be applied to solve, these really complex problems.
Yeah.
But all this revenue generation doesn't mean much if they're not managing their expenses effectively.
Yeah.
What are some of their biggest cost drivers? The things that eat into their profits?
Their largest expense is actually stock-based compensation, as we touched on earlier. They're heavily incentivizing their employees with equity, which, can be both a blessing and a curse for investors.
Right. Attract and motivate top talent, but also dilute the value of existing shares. It's a balancing act. What other notable expenses are they grappling with?
Well, sales and marketing is another significant expense, which is not surprising given their aggressive growth strategy. They need to invest heavily in building their brand, reaching new clients, especially as they expand into that commercial sector. So you'll see them at, industry conferences, sponsoring events, running targeted marketing campaigns. It's all part of their push to become a more mainstream player in the data analytics space.
And they're competing with some deep-pocketed tech giants out there, so they have to make a splash to get noticed. What about research and development? How much are they investing in, innovation and staying ahead of the curve?
Yeah. R&D is definitely a priority, though their expenses in that area are smaller compared to, stock-based compensation in sales and marketing. But they're still pouring resources into enhancing their platforms, developing new features, and pushing the boundaries of their AI capabilities, with initiatives like AIP.
It's interesting to see how they balance these different priorities. They're clearly a growth-oriented company, but they also need to manage their spending and demonstrate profitability to investors. So how do we assess their efficiency? Like, how are they doing at converting revenue into actual profit?
Well, that's where the concept of contribution margin comes in. It helps us understand the profitability of their core operations. Think of it this way. It tells us how much money Palantir actually keeps from each dollar of platform revenue, after covering those direct costs associated with delivering those platforms, things like hosting fees, maintenance, and a portion of their sales and marketing efforts.
So a higher contribution margin means they're becoming more efficient at scaling their operations, which is a good sign for, long-term profitability.
Absolutely. And the good news is that their contribution margin has been steadily improving over the past few quarters, indicating that they're getting better at managing their costs as they grow, which is a positive sign for investors who are looking for sustainable profitability.
That makes sense. Efficiency is key, especially for a company in a high-growth phase. But we also need to consider the broader macroeconomic environment. The factors that are outside of their control, but can still impact their performance. Things like interest rates, currency fluctuations, even geopolitical events.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. These macroeconomic forces can have a ripple effect on even most well-managed companies. And the filings do mention a few potential headwinds. For example, the strengthening of the US dollar could impact their revenue from international clients. A stronger dollar makes their products and services more expensive overseas, which could hurt their competitiveness in those markets.
That's a challenge for any company with global operations. What about interest rates? How are rising interest rates affecting them?
Well, they have a significant investment portfolio, so rising interest rates could impact their returns on those investments. It's something to keep an eye on, especially as interest rates continue to fluctuate.
And, of course, we can't forget about the ongoing geopolitical uncertainties. You know those black swan events that can throw a wrench into any company's plans? We talked about the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the recent Hamas attack against Israel, but who knows what's around the corner? These events can have a ripple effect on government budgets and spending priorities, which, as we've discussed, could directly impact Palantir's government contract revenue.
Yeah, it's a reminder that investing is not just about looking at a company's financials in isolation. It's about understanding the broader context, the risks and the opportunities that exist in the world around them. It's about being aware of those interconnected forces that can shape a company's destiny.
Absolutely. It's about seeing the whole picture, not just a snapshot in time. And with a company like Palantir, that picture is incredibly complex and constantly evolving. We've explored their impressive growth, their bold investments, the potential pitfalls they face, and the unique characteristics that make them stand out in the tech landscape. But I think there's one final piece of this puzzle that we need to address. It's kind of the elephant in the room. It's the question that lingers in the minds of many people when they hear the name Palantir. Is their technology a force for good or a threat to privacy?
You've touched on their controversial reputation. They're often portrayed as a tool for government surveillance, a company that operates in the shadows, wielding this powerful technology that could be used to erode civil liberties.
And those concerns aren't unfounded, are they? Their technology is incredibly powerful, and it can be used for a wide range of purposes, some of which might make people uncomfortable.
It's a valid concern, and it's a debate that's likely to continue as Palantir's technology becomes more widespread. But it's also important to acknowledge that, their technology can be used for good. They're working with organizations to fight human trafficking, track the spread of diseases, even improve disaster response efforts. It's a tool that can be used for both positive and negative purposes. And it ultimately comes down to who's wielding that tool and for what reasons.
So it's a double-edged sword, like so many other aspects of Palantir. Their technology is powerful. But power can be used in different ways. It's up to each individual to decide where they stand on this issue.
I think that's a great takeaway. There's no easy answer when it comes to a company like Palantir. They're complex, they're controversial, and they're constantly evolving. Hopefully this deep dive has, equipped you with a more holistic understanding of their business, their financials, and the ethical considerations that surround their technology. But this is just the beginning of your journey. It's up to you to do your own research, form your own opinions, and decide whether Palantir is a company that you want to support, invest in, or simply keep an eye on.
Yeah, we've explored their impressive growth, their bold investments, their potential vulnerabilities, the unique characteristics that make them stand out in this tech landscape. We examined their financials, their strategy, their workforce, and the ethical considerations that surround their powerful technology. But ultimately, the decision of what to make of Palantir is yours. This deep dive has hopefully given you the tools and information to start forming your own conclusions.
Remember, there's no crystal ball in investing or in life. It's all about informed decision-making. And we're here to help provide you with the insights and perspectives you need to navigate this, complex and ever-changing world.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Palantir. We hope you found it informative, insightful, and maybe even a little bit thought-provoking. We'll catch you on the next episode, where we'll explore another fascinating corner of the business world. Until then, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep exploring.